Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including John Shannon, standing by, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Just before we get to John Shannon, I want to read this from the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox, because we've got about 6 submissions regarding this. Curling guy in the whack, is it just me? Early. Donnie showing the curse of the left-hander with all that ink smudged on his left hand. Maybe you should switch to a pencil. Again, that's from Curling Guy in the whack. It's hard to find a pen, and there you go. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. But it's hard to find a pen that lasts these days. And the ones that last the most, I find, are these ones from Costco. You can buy like 60 of them for like $9. Yeah. And they last a long time. But they do smudge.
They explode.
And for somebody who's left-handed, it's really tough.
They explode. We've all had a pen explode on our hands.
It's tough to find a pen that lasts these days. And the ones that do last, they smudge. You can't win, especially if you're a lefty like me. I'm sure John's really happy about hearing about this 100% Hockey podcast. He's a co-host. John Shannon joins us now. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. And I've always wanted that one great business idea, and you've given it to me. The left-handed pen. I am going to invent the left-handed pen and become a multimillionaire.
Yeah. All you have to do is come up with a pen that doesn't smudge, and left-handers will be happy. And I don't know if that one is a great lasting pen. The smudge factor is off the charts. I can't have it. I can't have it.
And the other thing, Rick, I'll tell you what. I know you and Tocchet are tight. You and Tocchet are really tight. You've got to tell them. You got to go with the button-downs.
Yeah.
Go with the button-down shirts. You never have the problem. You never have the hanging collar. Solves every problem.
Oh, what a great advice. Great advice.
Pens and collars.
I've been on the air 15 years. Button-downs every time.
Yeah. We've never had a complaint about your collars. A lot of other complaints about you, but never about your collars.
Tons. We get tons.
Yeah. But there's at least 15 people talking about the smudge on my left hand today. Hey, the Canucks beat the Jets 6-2, and we were talking about this before the show. Connor Hellebuyck gives up those goals last night. Should the Jets and their fans be worried? Great season, but we know what's happened the last 2 playoff seasons, early exits for the Jets. Should they be worried about this guy?
I think if you ask me that question by next Monday and it's still the same, the answer would be yes. I think this is probably the first time this season that it has been this drastic. The 6 goals the Canucks scored are the most goals scored since the first loss of the season by Winnipeg in October against the Maple Leafs. So this is kind of a one-off. They've got Edmonton tomorrow night. Connor Hellebuyck's going to play against the Oilers. I suspect that he'll be back on track against Edmonton Thursday night.
Hey, John, a ton of Canadian teams are in the playoff spots, playoff races. Calgary's right there as well. They're only a couple of points back, but this has got to be great for the CBC heading into the playoffs. The more Canadian teams, the better.
Well, I think Rogers will love it. Yeah. I really do. I think that they'll have a good time in the first round. I'm still not convinced, unfortunately, that there'll be this many Canadian teams in the playoffs, but it really does make good fodder for this time of year and great discussion. And quite frankly, I think we might know a little more on Thursday night when the Canucks go to St. Louis in their situation. And then Ottawa and Montreal to be the 2 wild cards in the East, absolutely phenomenal. And let me ask you this, the way Montreal is in playing, and they face the Washington Capitals, who are you picking? Who are you picking to win that series? Because Montreal's been lights out for a long time.
Yeah, they absolutely, and they deserve to be right where they are. They had a slow start to the season.
I'm going with the team with the head coach from Vancouver Island, Spencer Carber.
Who loves Taylor?
Oh, he's my buddy.
Well, we all grew up watching Donnie.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good.
A great point.
Very good. Little John Shannon and Oliver tuning into Sports Page.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was either you or McKeechie, and
Speaking of Vancouver Island.
Yeah, but I grew up with McKeechee and Bernie Pascal and Barry Houlihan, John.
Ron Mans.
Yeah, those were the guys.
I grew up with McKeechee and Bernie. That was my life.
Loved them.
Sports went 25 minutes on BCTV then, you know?
Oh, yeah. Boy, do I miss those guys. They were the best back in the day. Gary Bettman today at the GM meetings, April 1st, they're going to start talking CBA. He didn't have a definitive answer when asked about the All-Star game next year. They don't know what to do with the All-Star game next year because obviously the Four Nations were such a big success, but it's also an Olympic year, so obviously they're probably going to scratch it. But in the future, what do they do now with this Four Nations thing was such a smash hit?
Well, and this has all come up since Four Nations, Rick, because the island had been awarded the All-Star game, and the plan was to have it in a place where people then could fly directly from Kennedy Airport to Italy for the Olympics.
All right.
But Four Nations has changed the whole perspective. I don't think you can have anymore an all-star game in the years that there are the Olympics or what's going to now be the World Cup of Hockey. It just doesn't make any sense, particularly with the quality of play. So they're going to have to rethink it. And I think that the league has got pressure internally from people. I think the Islanders have been directly involved in this with Lou Lamoriello and John Collins. I think there's a lot of people that have said, you know what, we need to rethink what we're going to do at this point because it just doesn't make any sense. Yep. Four Nations set the bar pretty high, as the commissioner said, and now, you know what, we have to do what's best for the game. The other thing is, you know, you add the Olympic schedule and then you add an all-star break. That means the schedule is going to be even that much more compacted.
Condensed,
and that's not good. We're seeing the injuries happen now and happen before, and we just can't have this many injuries of too many great players.
John, I was going to ask you about the NHL GM meetings, which Rick just touched on there. And yesterday they talked a lot about cut-resistant material. And I'm just looking on your Twitter account. You've been made aware of a crazy story with Josh Anderson last night in that Montreal win over Ottawa.
And I've got to give Martin Biron credit, who's a TSN broadcaster and works locally in Buffalo a great deal. As he told the story, Josh Anderson, the Canadiens forward, has been practicing using the Kevlar socks, the cut-resistant socks, and wore them for the first time in a game last night in Montreal against Ottawa. And Shane Pinto's skate blade cut through the outside sock and then got stopped by the Kevlar sock, and Anderson continued to play the game and, in fact, scored a goal late in the game. Absolutely amazing. It was the first game that Anderson has worn the Kevlar socks. It's an amazing story. And when you consider what Tommy Fitzgerald did yesterday, a plea to make sure that there are socks and neck guards even at the professional level, and they should be mandated, it's something that has to receive a little bit more contemplation at every level, and particularly in minor hockey.
And for people that don't know, Tom Fitzgerald, GM of the New Jersey Devils, his son Casey, scary incident in December where he was cut by a skate blade. So it came close to home for him. Seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it, John, to mandate this? And they do in the American Hockey League, but not in the NHL.
Well, it has to be collectively bargained. So perhaps when the negotiations start next month, we've added another important item to the list of negotiable topics.
Yeah. Like I say, it seems like a no-brainer. John, thanks for this. I'll get back to you on the pens, which ones work and which ones don't work when it comes to smudging for left-handers.
We don't call it Costco at our house, though, so we just call it the $700 club.
Yeah, because you go in there for a 10-gallon drum of nutmeg and you come out with $700 worth of hummus.
Yeah.
And my wife says, "What did you buy today?"
Yeah. or you go to Costco looking for one thing and you come out with $700 and you forgot to get that one thing. I've done it. Who has it?
Yeah. The hot dog's still $1.50.
Yeah, that's
true. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Well, Canuck fans know all about that, and Lions fans. John, thanks for this.
Cheers.